running or playing that.
I'm the same way. I mean,
because you got to have, once you get past episode 1 and into episode 2, then it's more of a war game. And I don't know. I mean, I enjoy the cartoons, the Clone Wars cartoons and stuff like that. But as the game itself, I prefer before, when there were more than just like a handful of Jedi. I just think that's...
when we were kids, when we'd play Star Wars, it was, you're on the Death Star. You go to the Death Star and, look, there's Darth Vader. Oh, I'm going to go out and I'm going to hit him with my lightsaber. I'm going to throw
or somebody,
throw a thermal
you're
detonator.
You're at Tatooine, you see a blonde-headed kid, you take a shot at it.
Right. So
I never did that. When I played my game.
I always thought that was, then it was fun. Now I look back at it, Dan, for you. Now I look back at it and I go, I know that was lame. That was stupid.
I want to go up against the Hutt.
We're going to be different players in our 30s than we were in our teens.
Sure. I know, I agree. But that's the question now is, what kind of game do you play in Star Wars now? If you're going to play around Episode 1, how do you avoid Ben, Han, Chewie, Luke? How do you avoid them and still put us in that universe? You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Does that make any sense?
I know what he meant. You said episode 1, but you meant episode 4.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Episode 4, that's what I meant. Which obviously wasn't its original title.
So anyway, how do you avoid that? It is tough, and because in the back of your mind, you always know those characters are out there, and there's always that temptation.
So separating yourself from that particular era is best if you're going to play in that universe.
And to me, this is my main gripe for playing any game, Star Wars, Game of Thrones, any of it, because if we played during the Jedi Purge or during episodes 4, 5, and 6, it's not my story. Right. I know what that story is, and it's not my story. It doesn't matter what I do because we already know how it ends.
Right.
That's why I would choose either one, not after, because Yuuzhan Vong is dumb.
Yes.
But
and anything that starts with R.A. Salvatore is equally dumb.
But like I said, I was going to run a Star Wars game, set it as a Sith centric campaign. It's not going to happen the same time as the Old Republic game. It'll be different. It won't have the same characters or anything like that. But it'll have. I wanted that to the Sith. Their whole thing is emotion. Emotion is good. Passion is good. You can be passionate about other things than hate. You can be passionate about. You could be a real, really loving.
Okay, I could be a really loving, passionate artist in a group of Sith in a role playing game, and we all know how that's going to devolve. I'm gonna die because somebody's gonna kill me.
Well, and that's the nature of an evil campaign.
Not if we're keeping you around to paint portraits of us,
right?
But the nature,
the official Darth painter.
The nature of an evil campaign is make it so you are too valuable to kill.
These are good in structured 3-act plays, but in the real world, like if we're saying we're existing in a real world, this doesn't work because people will just kill you.
Well, it's like you put 6 guys in a room
toys, and then they are powerful now.
I agree. Ultimately, it's Star Wars. It's not real life. It's Star Wars.
I think you're overdoing it there, Dan. Now, if
not me.
Now if we were playing a Highlander role-playing game, then there would
where everybody's a Highlander.
Well, isn't the nature of the Sith the rule of 2? I mean, eventually it's going to.
This would be before the rule of 2.
Yes,
that's way old.
Yeah, that's the point.
So when did the rule of 2 come in? Whenever Lucas made it up?
Darth Bane. But anyway.
But anywho.
The edition of Star Wars, though, Saga Edition, I like Saga Edition.
I think they did a lot right.
And the thing about Saga Edition Star Wars is, and everybody knows it, it was the precursor to 4th edition D&D. It was almost like a testing ground for some of the rules that they were going to use. That being said, I prefer Saga Edition Star Wars, but I do not prefer 4th edition D&D. It's that separation of...
Well, they took the good parts of Saga and they took it maybe a little bit too far.
Yeah.
Well, sort of. I think it's just the feel of it. The cinematic feel of Saga Edition feels more like a Star Wars. It's very streamlined. It's very quick. You're not bogged down on a lot of rules and things like that. So in that it's good. But in 4th edition, if they would have stuck with that system, they would have been okay. But they added so much more with the power cards and all that stuff like that.
Yes, once they added this is your encounter power, your daily power, your whatever power. That's
they
really
overcomplicated it.
Yes, they cluttered it up. I was like, I got to what were 4th or 5th level by the time we were done with that campaign you were running.
7th level.
Right. I was like, I had no idea what I could do.
But yeah, I think Saga Edition Star Wars, if you're going to play a Star Wars game, that's the one I would recommend because it just has that feel. And I think that when you're talking about Fantasy Flight now owning the IP, I think they have huge shoes to fill if they're going to come up with a role-playing game.
Which is why it's going to be bad.
Now, I'm really going to make Mark mad because Fantasy Flight can go one of two directions if they make a role-playing game. We can go Warhammer roleplay, or we can go Dark Heresy.
Yeah, right.
One is a little cardy, board gamey.
Yeah, very much so.
I'm prepared to be highly disappointed.
And the other one is all...
You
are a charcoal burner. So you are stuck between a rock and a turd.
But wait a minute. What would the Star Wars equivalent of charcoal burner be?
Moisture farmer, sir.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Wow.
All right. Does anybody else have anything else to say about...
It would be bad to leave this out since it was the name of the topic, but in the early 80s there was another role-playing game that was actually called Space Opera.
That actually came out in 78.
And I know none of us played it, but I do remember the ads for it in Dragon, and it looked interesting.
You don't know anything about the rule set or anything like that?
No.
I read about it a little bit today.
But if anyone knows anything about it, chime in.
I didn't read enough of it to
and if
retain
anybody has any others that you think we missed or, recommend, do so. Well, I think that'll pretty much do it, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Watch out for my jerky.
Follow us on Twitter. We're at Gamers Table.
Like us on Facebook.
Listen to us on iTunes.
Or on Stitcher.
Got a question you want read during the show? Send us an email at feedback@gamerstable.com or leave us a voicemail at 559-546-1231. Check out some other great shows affiliated with us at rpgcrosstalk.webs.com.
You have been listening to Gamers Table, a registered trademark Side Tangent Productions. Visit us at gamerstable.com. Products and intellectual properties discussed during this podcast are properties of their respective owners. This production is for entertainment purposes only. Any commercial broadcast is prohibited without written consent from Side Tangent Productions.